Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to be joined in this episode by Allison Kirchhofer. Allison founded Accounting by Design in 2021 to serve New York and New Jersey's trailblazing cannabis entrepreneurs. And she's the director and the co-founder of the New York CONSORTIUM of Cannabis Accountants, whose mission is to promote financial literacy among New York's legacy market leaders and social equity entrepreneurs. Allison, how are you keeping today?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted to have you on. So, as I said, New York, I think, is going to be one of the markets that influence Europe's far more than some of the further away states. So, with our Irish ancestors over there, we keep a keen eye on this state of what's happening. Can you maybe give everybody a quick little overview of how you ended up in the position you are and the field that you're working in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Accounting by Design last year to work with cannabis entrepreneurs in my backyard in New York and New Jersey. I'm a born and bred New Yorker, and right now I live not far from Jersey. So focusing on helping those entrepreneurs come on board in the cannabis industry here.
Okay, amazing. So basically, I want to try and touch on as many topics that I can for New York to help educate the viewers over in the States and in Ireland about what I think could possibly be the best state so far to legalize in America. I just think with the level of entrepreneurship, the diversity that happens in New York, I think you're going to have an entrepreneurs coming from so many different sectors. It's not going to be just one or two levels of entry like it is in a lot of other states.
I would agree. Yeah.
So perfect. Can you maybe give everybody a brief overview of what is the New York Consortium of Cannabis Accountants? Why did you guys set it up? And what is the medium to long-term aim with this organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a group of accountants working with cannabis businesses in New York. And for the most part, we are all New Yorkers. And we founded the organization because we identified a real need for financial education in the industry amongst entrepreneurs that want to enter the cannabis space or have already been operating in the cannabis space pre-license for possibly decades and supporting livelihoods that way. So to help transition them from legacy to legal, our vision really is to see the legal market in New York thrive. And we're focusing on New York not only because we are New Yorkers ourselves, but because, like you said, this New York is a unique market. It's going to be a large one, and it's going to have a lot of intricacy and detail specific to New York. So we really wanted to hone in on what New York cannabis entrepreneurs needed. And our long-term goal is really to be the source of financial literacy and education for these groups that are looking to get into. Some of them are, like I said, new business owners and just an understanding of what it means to operate in a regulated, taxed, legal market, and helping with business plans and budgeting down the road and everything you need to do to get your house in order, sort of as step one before you begin to build out your team and do your due diligence getting into the market.
Okay, incredible. And from my reading, you guys are a team of financial wizards. And this is, again, one of the things I think about New York, where you're going to be able to, if you've got even a level entry into this industry, be able to utilize the skill set of a team of industry experts like yourself. And I don't think that happens in very many cities. So it's not just going to be the big hedge funds and the VCs that manage to dominate the entry point into this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope that's what actually plays out as the market rolls out here in New York.
Okay, great. And can you maybe tell everybody, I was studying, what is forensic accounting and why will that matter in the cannabis industry?
So it's forensic accounting is basically using a set series of procedures to build books and records going back in time where there were none to begin with. And there are a lot of situations where this may happen. It can happen with legal businesses that just have poor accounting systems and they don't have those records. They need to file tax returns. And they may be doing that for a lot of reasons. One of the big ones is to submit, as part of the application to the state for your licensure. Myself and some of the other co-founders of the consortium have been doing this sort of back work with legacy operators as well, who are looking to contribute legacy funds to their new legal venture. Well, they need to report and pay tax on that. So going back and building books and records and documenting all of the methodology around that is what we're doing to help them really be in a good position to submit an application to the state and to have all of their ducks in a row.
Yeah, so it seems like a great service you guys are providing for people. So we got the end of sales look like they're beginning in 2022. So in terms of the licensing that they've been handing out so far, you're seeing retail licenses being given out so far. And again, is it a broad spectrum, or is it? I read that it was the equity groups are getting their first retail licenses in New York. Is that being upheld?
Yes, so it's still rolling out right now, but essentially they decided to kick off with a sort of ingenious approach with this seedling program, and we're under this like conditional regime right now where they've awarded conditional cultivator licenses, so seeds are in the ground right now, and then they are rolling out conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses. So this is a very narrow focus to kickstart the industry. On the cultivator processor side, those licenses are awarded to those that have experience in growing and processing industrial hemp. So they will get the sort of the first stab at the THC grows in New York. And then on the retail side, they have a very narrow focus here of individuals that have been justice involved. So they have a New York conviction and they have experience running a profitable business. So it's a very narrow focus, and there will be broader spectrum regulations and applications released sometime in the next couple months. I'm not very good at sort of guessing when the state's going to act, but that's how they're kicking things off here. So they want the existing hemp farmers and processors to be the first to grow. And they want those, like I said, those that fit this very specific profile to be the first to open the dispensaries. And they are kind of like state-sponsored dispensaries. So they'll have lease through the state, loans through the state, selected locations, and it's sort of an interesting, very unique way to kick off the market here in New York.
Okay, so you basically have a lot of experience in New Jersey as well as New York. With the two states being beside each other, is the shipping of product now going to be okay to do because two states are right beside each other, or are they still separate entities when it comes to the products and the cultivation and whatnot?
Yeah, as long as cannabis is illegal at the federal level, you cannot ship across state lines. So yes, two separate microcosm economies of cannabis right next to each other. Whether there can be some sort of agreement among like the tri-state, Connecticut, maybe Pennsylvania, I'm not sure if and how that can play out. But right now, there is no shipping of product between state lines.
Do you think New Jersey have gotten a head start, or does first to market not necessarily mean a head start in this industry with the amount of pitfalls that somebody starting is going to come across?
So New Jersey does have adult use sales as of today, whereas New York does not. So technically speaking, they got the head start and they had a very different approach. They gave the existing, what were referred to as alternative treatment centers, which, the medical facilities that have been existing for a few years in New Jersey, they were, a handful of them were given approval to sell adult use. So it is the MSOs that got the head start in New Jersey, which is not what we're seeing in New York. So it is it's an interesting approach. However, today you can purchase adult use cannabis in New Jersey. We're not quite there, probably won't be. The goal is by the end of this year to have those conditional dispensaries up and operating in New York.
Okay, and the next topic I wanted to talk about was New York cannabis taxation. Now, we know the rules aren't exactly out yet when it comes to the exact taxation, but we've seen already, even this side of the pond, California's tax laws are even known over here for how strict and severe they are, and we saw the rollback there recently. If you were designing the taxation for the New York industry, of the three areas that you've obviously got sales and retail, cultivation, and then manufacturing / processing. is there a sweet taxation number that you think the government should be looking at, or should some be priced a little bit higher than others?
I can't say that I don't know if I can tell the state exactly what tax rates, if that's sort of what you're asking. But it is an interesting approach here in New York. So the distributors are going to have a potency-based tax imposed on them. And so that's going to impact their negotiations down the supply chain and ultimately pricing, and really squeeze their margins, in addition to the impact of 280E, which is the Internal Revenue Code section that says that cannabis traffickers cannot take any deductions or credits. So the distributors are going to be hit hard, and that is going to have an impact on pricing down the supply chain. And it is a flat tax based on potency as opposed to sales. So similar to the cultivation tax, I believe, in California. So it's interesting to see how it's going to play out. It's a slightly different tax regime in New Jersey, which is weight-based. Doing the potency tax in New York, I know the intention was, or to what was front of mind in choosing a potency tax typically would be more of a public health initiative. So to not encourage high THC, that they're going to tax the THC. From an accounting perspective, there's going to be a lot of record keeping to be maintained, which is what I've been, focusing my attention on in terms of keeping track of, because the tax is based on milligrams. But without getting too much into the weeds there, the distributors are going to have that tax imposed on them. There's also an excise tax at the retail level, and consumers will be paying sales tax on cannabis in New York.
And in New York, is the licensing that people go through, it's through a separate whole department. It's not through, let's say, the licensing and excise people who would give out alcohol licenses and gambling license. Is it a separate entity?
Yes, it's the Office of Cannabis Management, which was created so it was medical marijuana program was managed under the Department of Health. And then when they passed adult use, they created the Office of Cannabis Management and transitioned the entire cannabis program, medical, adult use, and cannabinoid hemp, to the Office of Cannabis Management.
Incredible. Is there any brands so far that you're looking forward to seeing launched towards the end of the year, or that you think are going to be able to take a foothold in this industry nationally?
Just generally speaking, I'm looking forward to seeing what edibles brands come out. I'm speaking to and working with some clients that are looking to get into the edibles market here in New York, and they're not allowing edibles in New Jersey yet. So we will be first to market there. So I'm looking forward to seeing the ingenuity that's going to come out of the edibles market in New York.
Interesting. I think cannabis tourism is going to skyrocket in New York in 2023.
Absolutely.
I'll be pre-booking my flights in advance now for the next couple of years.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's another huge one. That's very much, hospitality piece. Hospitality and cannabis is an awesome trend that we're going to see explode over the next couple of years. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, and I know that mix in the music events, music and cannabis is synonymous as a partnership. I can only imagine some of the tasting lounges and experience events that are going to be happening on the Manhattan skyline.
Absolutely. And up in the Hudson Valley, where I'm located, you have the beautiful landscape here. It's going to be really, really fun.
Amazing. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. For anybody who's looking to get into the New York industry, highly recommend you check out the New York Consortium of Cannabis Accountants, cannabisaccountants.org. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Allison. It's been very much appreciated.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay, everybody, till the next time.